Before we get into this course, I want to tell you a little bit about my songwriting journey. So being a songwriter is about harnessing what you know. You can learn all there is about music theory and what makes a good song, but the only way to really get better at it is to write lots and lots of songs. Just like Adele's albums have been named after her age when she wrote them, as songwriters we go through lots of different stages in terms of the things that we write about and the styles that we gravitate towards throughout our lifetime as a songwriter. When I started songwriting when I was younger, I would use simple chords as a way to set the poetry that I used to write to music. I got in a girl group and then I started to try and play arpeggios as fast as I could, and that was my thing. Later, I discovered seventh chords, and then I would integrate that into my songwriting. Slightly more jazzier songs, and that resulted in a solo jazz album that I created. I also did a music degree, so I learned more about harmony, and as I learned more about the way chords can work together, I started being more purposeful with the way I wrote my chord progressions. Lyrically, when I first started writing songs, it was, about being a teenager, and then later it was about, in my early 20s, I didn't think I knew very much, and I wasn't wrong, so I would write about things that I thought were cool. I would put myself in a different situation. You know the saying, write what you know? Well, I didn't really know that much, so I just used my imagination. Later, I moved to the UK, to London, and there I started getting into more progressive rock. And so I was in a rockier band, I was writing music with sort of darker angsty lyrics, and I was really interested in putting the listener, surprising them. So I would use lots of key signature changes, lots of time signature changes. I was influenced by bands like Muse, the Mars Volta, Nine Inch Nails, Tori Amos, and then Fiona Apple as well. So that resulted in 2 EPs of that heavier prog rock songwriting. As I matured as a musician, inevitably that ends up in simplifying things a little bit, not having to show off so much. So the next project I did was an album, my second studio album, and that was called Pause Between Breaths, and it was a lot softer, a lot more of a relaxing musical experience for the listener, and that was influenced by the fact that I was listening to lots of post-rock. So you can see, as a musician, you do change what you write depending on what you learn and what you're going through in your life as well. After that album, I moved back home to New Zealand, and I actually didn't write songs for a few years because I started Piano Picnic, and I focused on creating this online school for learning creative piano that you know today. And it was a few years that passed and I didn't write any songs at all. And then during COVID of last year, when it first came about and we had our isolation here in New Zealand, I started to want to be creative with my songwriting again. And so, again, I started a new phase of songwriting influenced by the time in my life that it was. So I started creating music that was happier, since I'm happy to be in my home country, and I also live by the beach now, so the music is sort of influenced by that sort of beachy sort of feeling as well. And I sort of like to move a bit to the dance that I'm creating at the moment, so that's how I've been influenced. So you can see that writing songs is so influenced by where you are at in your life, and because of that, you should write songs with a sense of openness and don't be too harsh with yourself, because you can only write songs from where you are in that moment with the knowledge that you have in that moment. However, in this course, I'm going to be teaching you some of the largely agreed upon songwriting rules that we use in order to develop our skills as a songwriter. You are going to be writing songs following those rules, and the more rules you learn and the more you learn about the art of songwriting, the more your songs are going to develop and start to use more techniques. So as we start with this course, just keep an open mind about what you're writing. Don't compare yourself to people who've been writing songs forever or against popular hit songs. Just write the song as it comes out with what you know in the moment, and you'll be golden. The main point of writing songs is expressing yourself. It's about getting a feeling that's inside of you out into the world. Whether or not the whole world hears your song is kind of irrelevant. It's really about just getting that music out of you, and that is the feeling as musicians and songwriters that we really want to go for. It's just expressing ourselves, and it doesn't have to be a public thing. No one has to listen to your music if you don't want them to, but the cathartic result of having written a song and getting a feeling out into the universe as just a sonic and musical representation of where you're at the moment is huge. So don't feel like just because you're doing a songwriting course and you're learning to write songs that you have to share your songs out in public to everyone else.